Hi, this is James, and for today's video, I want to talk about, was Brockhampton a success? And I want to start this video off by talking about my personal experience with Brockhampton. Now, my freshman year, April 9th, 2021, I showed up to school, and I think it was like my third or second period. I had a free period and I listened to Roadrunner. And the weird thing was I hadn't listened to Brockhampton before then, but I had heard all this stuff about them. I had heard from critics all this positive things, all this anticipation for this new project was going to rival their old material. So I decided it was a good time to start fresh with a group. And I liked a lot of alternative rap or whatever you want to call that genre at the time. When I heard Chain On with JPEG Mafia, I was blown away by how fun the music was. It's so deceptively simple. It's so rudimentary. It's like watching like a 2010 to 2016 Spurs team. I'm using another basketball analogy, so stay with me. Where Tim Duncan is Kevin Abstract, and you have people like Joba who are like the Manus, and Tim Parker is like maybe like a Matt Champion, and Romeo is definitely like the Popovich of it all. But everything is so seamless. Everything's one verse to one verse, switching who's performing, and it's so good. It's so perfect in a lot of ways. Now, I don't think the album's perfect, but I do think there's a lot of perfect moments, and that's kind of how I view almost every work of Brockhampton. Is there's a lot of perfect moments, and there's some albums that are, I think, separate from this. But anyway, that's my introduction to Brockhampton. And with Blush, the new Kevin Abstract band coming soon, I really started thinking about, was Brockhampton a success if the leading figure of Brockhampton is wanting to kind of recreate the same feeling again? Why does he have to do that? Why does he feel the need like this is something that should be good and should be something he's doing in his career? So I'm only really going to talk about Brockhampton after their first big deal, after they had the first project come out, and then beginning with the Saturation trilogy. And the reason why I think this is such a unique and important deal is because it was a expensive deal. They paid them a lot of money for a lot of albums, but it was supposed to be split amongst all the members. I believe it was 13 members at the time, but that included producers. That included like even some like designers, editors, like all sorts of stuff, photographers, not just rappers or singers. And there was the whole narrative with them that they talked about in interviews, which was, we want to be the best boy band. We're the best boy band. And I think that's a great way to kind of differentiate themselves. They didn't want to be seen as like a rap group or a pop group or whatever. They could just be a boy band because that's what they were. One of the things that led to their success was they were able to be part of a scene, and this was in the youth culture of the time. But when you think of that like Flower Boy 2017, Tumblr, Pinterest, that sort of stuff, think of people wearing like overalls and like having like bright colored hats or like wearing a vest or something, and super cropped pants. This was their demographic. It kind of filled the void that had just been exited by Chance and Childish Gambino having the careers that they're having at this point. You know, when you think of like Awaken My Love and Coloring Book are kind of coming out like right before this time or right around this time. They've kind of elevated to this big mainstream level instead of being dominant among like a younger demographic. So there's this great empty space for Brockhampton to fill, and they do it so perfectly. They do it so well. They release the trilogy, everything's going well, and then obviously things get really interrupted with the Amir stuff. A lot of member fluctuation kind of after that. There's various hiatuses, tensions within the group, and like Iridescence comes out, and that's like it charts well. Ginger kind of charts well, but because of the one song being like a very big driving factor, and I love Ginger, it actually might be my favorite project of theirs. I think that's kind of where things end for the group. Roadrunner feels like a Joba album in a lot of ways, with a lot of other pieces. I don't want to ignore the other contributions, but I think after Ginger, they completely shift the way they operate, where a lot of songs are very clearly this is a song by this member with these artists featuring. And while sometimes that's great, where you have a song like The Light, which feels like a Joba song with Kevin Abstract added to it. You know what I mean? Like, there's some amazing moments because of this. And then they, I believe, go on a hiatus after that for a while, and then they do the whole last 2 albums to end the group. And those projects are so mixed. There's moments on both of those where I'm like, that's really creative. That's really clever. I think Romeo does the best job on those 2 projects. I think that shows, and I'm going to talk about where a lot of the members are now right after this, but I think Romeo demonstrates in those last 2 projects why he's just as vital to that group as Kevin Abstract was. Because on those projects, the only thing that feels consistent about it is that it's largely produced by the same guy. When it comes to the 2 like rappers of the group, when you think of the more iconic verses, individual verses that are being rapped and not sung necessarily, you usually think of Merlin and Amir. And regardless of your perspective on Amir, and I'm not going to touch on the personal stuff because everyone seems to have their own opinion on that and whether or not he should be forgiven, what happened. All I'm going to say is I think he was kicked out for a reason, but he obviously continued his career and even collabed on a project with Merlin, and I felt very mixed about it. I gave it a shot because I was curious, and the production was horrible. There was a horrible producer tag that was like all over the project. It kind of ruined it for me. And yeah, I think those 2 artists are struggling with just dwelling in this mediocrity. They're not pushing themselves the same way that they were with Brockhampton. So when I talk about was Brockhampton a success, for those 2 members, I kind of feel like it wasn't. Like, it gave them an audience, but not a big enough one to where it makes sense to be doing the type of stuff that they're doing, because they're not getting these like big hits from it. And Matt Champion, I think, is a perfect example of this being a success. This has been a launch point for Matt Champion. Now he makes music that's very good. I mean, I like it. I think that he benefited a lot from being able to mature and have this experience writing with other people in this sort of setting as this boy band. Romeo is extremely successful. I think in a lot of ways, Romeo is the most successful out of anyone in the group, in the sense of he has continued to work with different artists. He's in the alternative sphere a little bit, indie pop more, but like the fact that he's been touching different genres and having success in all of them really just shows his ability as a writer, as a producer, someone who's able to contribute in the way that he does, and going on that progression is really remarkable. And Joba released a project last year. It was very good, in my opinion. I thought it was really solid. I think that makes sense. To me, he was always like the strongest writer in terms of the potency of what he wrote. While with Brockhampton, he was always very memorable to me. He always had a very emotional performance. Bareface is kind of a mystery. I don't want to talk about it too much because there's not much to talk about, and I feel like whenever people do talk about it, it seems very personal. People like to speculate on what's going on with him. I find that kind of weird. We don't know what's going on, so why bother guessing? And with Kevin Abstract, I absolutely love Blanket. I love American Boyfriend. I love a lot of Kevin Abstract's solo stuff. I think he has such great potential. I love when he works with Quadeca. His song Texas Blue was like my favorite song of 2024. I absolutely love that song. And with Kevin Abstract's new project Blush coming out, and it's clear that he's collaborating a lot more with Quadeca, it makes me wonder what's really the future for Kevin, because Kevin is the person who posts the most about missing Brockhampton. I wish we were still together. Why can't we just make music? He tweets stuff like, I want to be in a band again, like all this very melodramatic stuff. But I get it. I mean, this is an extremely rare thing to happen to someone, where they experience this level of success and then things just kind of go away because people grew apart. And that's really the reality of the group. And when I talk about whether or not it was a success, I'm really talking about, are people able to do musically, because that's the only way we can really judge this, the things that it's clear that they want to be doing. So despite Kevin's like objective success, where he is, you know, getting streaming numbers, like he's still able to make the music he wants to make. But it's so clear he's been looking for something more. When you listen to the music he makes, a lot of it feels like he's trying to just do new things to see what'll stick. So I'll sometimes love something, but it's clear to me, I'm like, this doesn't feel like what Kevin's going to do in the future. I love Blanket, but if he made an album that sounded like Blanket again, I'd be confused. Is it a success? I think for some of the members, yeah, but for Kevin, I don't think it is yet. I think we will see with Blush if he can recreate the fun of Brockhampton. I think that was one of the things about this group that people don't really get, is when you're touring with this group of people, you bond, you get really close. The idea that this was only about like musical differences or some weird interpersonal social stuff is wrong. Like, there's probably so much stuff we'll have no idea ever happened, and I'm glad we don't know it happened, of just friendly things, events happening, people just witnessing the same stuff together. That's kind of why I think Kevin is missing in his music. The fun and the almost carelessness that comes with working with other people, of this trust that other people can bring things together, allows you to really experiment in your own way and do what you want to do without the same pressures. And I think that's what Kevin wants out of Blush. I think that's why he wants it to be this amorphous band where you can work on things and contribute what you want to contribute, because it allows him to be permanently in that state of just bouncing things off of other people and seeing what works, and then being at his best by being the stable figure in there. So yeah, if you watch this video all the way through, thanks for watching. Like the video, subscribe. What are your thoughts? Is Brockhampton successful to you? Do you view the artist as successful? What's your metric for it? Are they doing what they want to do? And I also make music. Check it out. It's on this channel, actually. It's also on streaming services. Old Conversations by James Coe. I'm always working on new stuff. So if you don't like the old stuff, the new stuff will be way better. And yeah, stick around for it when it comes out. Thanks for watching.